Alrighty, and here we go. Welcome back, everyone. How are we doing today? Welcome to another weekly stream here over on Celtics Digest. I'm your host, Bruce Velez, with my co-host, Patrick Billings. And Pat, we got some good news to talk about with the Boston Celtics, as there has been some stuff to break down and discuss. Earlier today, we released a video talking about Celtics sale and some things going along about that. And just before the stream, we got some news revolving around that, as it has finally been confirmed the Celtics sale has gone through. So we'll be diving into some of that. We'll also be exploring some of the games that have been released, the NBA Cup games, some other Celtics games throughout the schedule have been released ahead of tomorrow, where all the games will fully be revealed going into next season. And then we'll be diving in and looking at the depth chart and looking at some questions and asking ourselves about some of these players. So we're going to dive in and explore all of that on today's episode. How you doing today, Pat? A nice little stream for all of us to get into today.
I'm doing good, man. I mean, things are picking up a little bit more than the last few weeks. We got what, 3 pieces of news technically this
Yes,
week
yes.
instead of just one on Monday and then that's it. So I guess that's a good sign. We're heading slowly crawling to the beginning of this season this year.
Yeah, a slow crawl, definitely, indeed. I saw a guy, I don't know if you know Three Cone or Cone on Twitter, the Thunder fan, but he's a YouTuber as well. But he was like, "Damn, it sucks that the off season was like so chaotic in like the first couple weeks, right? Like we got out of the playoffs, right, and we saw all these trades, the Kevin Durant trade, the draft was right around the corner. We saw all these free agency signings, some linkings towards that, but now it's just completely dead. And specifically with like the RFAs, it's completely been slowed down. There's so many other like bigger name guys out there like the Jonathan Kumingas, like the Josh Giddeys, and even those signings have potentially hindered some other moves out there, as the Golden State Warriors haven't made a single move, and we're at August 13th, which is just crazy to see regarding their roster. So it's just really been like a stalemate for everyone, I feel like, in every franchise. So it's just kind of boring at this point past Summer League.
Yeah, I think it just takes one other, I guess you could say, big move to really get everything else rolling. Like if it is a Kaminga, that's the next move. I think the other pieces start to fall into place, vice
Mm-hmm.
versa, right? It could be anyone else, but I mean, not really Chris Boucher was the one who got the dice rolling, but I mean, maybe someone a little bit not to say more talented, but more bigger in the other team's eyes, kind of one that catches their eyes more, like Jonathan Kaminga and some other guys like him. So hopefully someone gets the ball rolling soon because this sucks.
Yeah, it is very boring. And with, what, about a month and a half to like the preseason, right? End of September, early October. Then you start getting to the middle of the end of October when the season starts, where you still almost got 2 months till actual NBA basketball for the Celtics. And it seems like it's going to continue to drag on over these 2 months if we don't have any news regarding. I'd still like to see news regarding around the NBA in general too. Like someone being active, just with everyone being so boring. When
What
we saw the
what do you get? You getting sick of watching other sports?
I mean, I'm not the biggest baseball guy, I'm not gonna lie, so I don't be really tapping into baseball. Football is coming around the corner, so I will be kind of diving into that and getting kind
Yeah,
of bought in. But mainly for me, basketball is my go-to sport.
that's
Maybe I gotta
fair. That's
tap
fair.
into the WNBA a little bit more, kind of get some access into that, because I've been
I
hearing
got a
this
couple.
season, this year
I
has
got a
been kind of
couple.
crazy, so I might have to tap into that because I've been really, really wanting to watch some Celtics, some Suns, some anything,
Mhm.
any NBA basketball, and I've just been completely deprived of it. And 2K is not going to help me. I'm sorry, 2K is not going to solve those problems.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, the Connecticut Sun was bought, and it looks like they will be moving to Boston within a couple of years. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's a good time to pick up on them early. But don't forget, there's still some tennis going on. The U.S. Open's on in
Oh,
2 weeks. You got to
okay.
get moving on tennis, man. Tennis
I,
is the wave. Tennis is a good sport to watch. If you guys like to bet, tennis is a great sport to bet on. Not condoning betting, of course, but yeah, bro, the tennis is the best too. You
all
got
right.
you got to get
I've
on it.
I've seen people tweeting about tennis during this offseason. I won't lie. I've been seeing the names and kind of been like, what are they tweeting about? And then I find out it's tennis, and I'm like, oh, okay, okay. So maybe tennis is something I'm going to have to kind of dive into and check out
Hell
over
yeah.
like if I'm getting multiple suggestions from multiple places, then I'm gonna have to kind of buy into it. But Patrick, we got some news to dive in. I love this little early chatter. It's absolutely great to have for everyone in here. But let's dive in and let's get into the chunk of news here,
Yep.
as what we've discussed and what we're going to be breaking down, as you can kind of tell by the thumbnail, our previous video that we kind of dove into it, was regarding around Bill Chisholm and the sale for the Celtics, as it was reported that Wyc Grousbeck wasn't going to be, containing that majority stake, having a more of a control of a team, which we can kind of see compare it to that Cuban situation from a couple years ago. Which, if you want more detail on that, go check out that video from that. But we did get a report at 5:23, so just a little over a half an hour ago, that the Celtics sale has been done. The approved sale has gone through to the group led by Bill Chisholm. This transaction is expected to close shortly, and that means the Celtics will be under control of Bill Chisholm. No more Wyc Grousbeck. He'll be taking that 15% majority stake, and will have to be putting the trust into Bill Chisholm. But like you said earlier in the video, Patrick, Bill Chisholm's a huge Celtics fan, grew up in Boston, and wants to do the best for this team. That's why he originally wanted to have Wyc a part of this ownership staff. But now he's going to be probably transitioning, bringing in some of his own voices, and we'll have to really trust and see what he can really bring out with the best team. Obviously, we know this year, a little bit of an injury-riddled year with Tatum being out, not really high expectations, but going into this next season after that, me and you, especially along other Celtics fans out there, are expecting them to kind of be in that championship build. So do you think that Bill Chisholm can really get them into that atmosphere once again?
Yeah, I definitely do. And I think next year is also a pretty good year to kind of get things going because there's a lot of excitement for him just to kind of be fully taken over. But it's still a different type of year. It's a retooling year, but there's still a ton of guys on the roster that make it so exciting. And of course, the past couple of years with the Celtics, we're so used to a lot of dominant wins and really not too much losing. This year is going to be a little bit more competitive with practically almost every team in the NBA that they play. It'll be a competitive game. So I think it's going to be more fun for him to really just fall in love with the team that he's always loved with growing up. And I think it's going to make him appreciate this time more and be like, well, we know what this next all season is going to look like when that comes around. And now it's really time to lock it in. He get more comfortable. He had a good year. He had fun, but now it's time to lock in. But I think that with this happening, I think that we're still on the sunny side. There shouldn't be a dark side with Wyc leaving and kind of just like, there's nothing to be upset about. Wyc did a great job with the Celtics for 20 some odd years, and I think that sometimes things come to an end, and I think that he couldn't have given it to anyone better, and especially someone that grew up loving the Celtics like him.
Yeah, and I'm expecting him to kind of take those reins and kind of obviously get a little bit of experience from Wyc. We saw them having those conversations through the games, like you mentioned. So I think kind of getting comfortable and kind of understanding this team from someone who had those reins, like we mentioned in that video, for over 25 years with that collective group, with his family and stuff like that. They obviously know what this Celtics culture is and what they want to represent. And obviously, Bill Chisholm, being a fan, knows that too, but just making sure that he understands it from the business perspective and just trying to make sure that they're all kind of aligned on that one piece and goal. And I think that's going to be for those championships post this season. And like you mentioned, this is kind of an evaluation season for the Boston Celtics, really trying to figure out who's going to stick and who's really going to stand out for those championship pushes. And I do think we can trust, obviously, Brad Stevens to be making those moves for the Boston Celtics. That's not going to be changing anything. The only thing that's realistically be changing is Bill Chisholm wanting to have the money or having the drive for Brad Stevens to make those moves. And obviously, with him being that Celtics fan, like representative of us, I think he's going to push for that.
Yeah, and I think it's nice also kind of looking back now that he was kind of hanging around with the team towards the end of that year and into playoffs as well, kind of gaining a good relationship with Wyc because, initially he was going to be with the team for to what, 2028. So initially, you know, things kind of changed now that it's just one more year, so to say, probably spend the next year with Wyc. And that's pretty much it. Kind of wish he probably got more experience, but I'm sure that they're going to be in constant contact. And we haven't heard any statements from Wyc, the Celtics, Chisholm, or anything about this sale just yet. But I assume within the coming days, we're going to hear something. And who knows, maybe Wyc could be more involved in a different position because it seems like he still wants to stick around. And since I couldn't be in the case that he's in right now, maybe there's something else that he could kind of pick up on and still stick around at the end of the day. Who really knows?
Yeah, I like that. I like that last part you said there about Wyc, obviously, trying to stick around, and maybe we do get to see him get like a different type of role. Obviously, I know some experience with the Suns. They kind of did that with their reshaping of the front office. They kind of assigned some roles differently, so we could definitely see that within the ownership as well for the Celtics here, with what kind of staying on, getting a different role here, sticking with Bill Chisholm. But turning away from that, if you want more details, you can check out the video. There was some news regarding the schedule release, Patrick, as 6 or 7 games, I think, have been released total. Now, Mark Stein tweeted out this week that the full schedule is going to be coming out tomorrow, so you'll have every single date. We do know the Celtics, unfortunately, not playing on Christmas this year when that already came out with the schedule release. But we do know some dates, and like I mentioned, tomorrow we'll have the full release of those ones. But diving in and looking at what we have so far, courtesy of Bobby Manning, the Celtics' known schedule so far is the first week home opener is going to be on 10/21, 10/24 at the Knicks, October 29th versus the Cavs, October 31st at the Sixers, which I do believe is one of those NBA Cup games, November 7th versus the Magic, November 21st versus the Nets, November 26th versus the Pistons, and January 19th versus the Pistons. Like you said, the rest of the games are expected tomorrow, but a week home opener versus the Knicks, it seems like? That's going to be fun.
Yeah, this is quite the start to the season, at least to some of these games that we're looking at here. I mean, it's gonna be an interesting start. Hopefully, they put some things together early on in training camp that they're ready for some of these teams. I mean, you got to expect the Knicks to be playing well. We always play well against them, except for what, the first 3 games last season when it was 30-point wins, 20-point wins. It's definitely gonna look a little bit different this year. But the Cavs too, the Sixers playing the Pistons twice, got the Magic, just all the teams that seem to give the Celtics some issues, especially the Magic. I'm not excited for that one, but it gives me a little bit of life now, like kind of seeing these games come out. They do it right at the right time. They got me. We're talking about how dead it is. Tomorrow, I guess it won't be so dead because we'll have at least something to look forward to, and maybe we could see what type of games we could go to. I mean, I'm over here in New York. I got to see the Celtics. It's been way too long. So maybe this is the year I could finally get out to Boston again because maybe the cheaper tickets because of how the team is looking this year. So I'm going to be banking on that.
Yeah, that's my kind of goal. Unfortunately for the Celtics, they are going to be banged up this year, but for the positive in
But
my
the
outlook
tickets,
of it, the
the
tickets
tickets.
might be a bit cheaper from all those casual fans not wanting to go see, which, hey, that means I can go to a couple games during the week. I will
Mhm.
take that. But I think some of the games that you highlighted, the Knicks games, will be interesting. The Cavs on October 29th, obviously the top two teams in last year's Eastern Conference going to be going at it. Obviously, that will be a very interesting one. The Sixers, like we mentioned, I believe that game is part of, if I can somehow figure out how to do this, give me 1 second, is part of the NBA Cup games, which I think is going to be very interesting. The Celtics have their like first game on Amazon Prime, and it's looking like that's where a majority of these games, Patrick, are going to be taking place here. If we look at this screenshot that I found ever so quickly in group play of the Emirates Cup 2025, 15 games will air nationally across Prime Video, NBC, and ESPN. And the Celtics, one of those games was October 31st versus the Philadelphia 76ers. So that's going to be very interesting. Obviously, we'll have to see how that goes. But two rivals from a couple of years ago when they had the Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Jaylen Brown versus Jayson Tatum kind of debates. And now looks like it's going to be two teams dealing with some injuries going into the season, with Paul George being hurt. Who knows what's going to happen to a Joel Embiid? So I think this could be a very fun game for a lot of people, especially people that are just maybe checking out Amazon Prime for the first time, being like, "Ooh, what is this NBA thing?" Could be a good standout.
Yeah, I think like you said, that first game on Amazon Prime, at least the first one of the season, is the Celtics. So that's pretty cool, I guess. See what that's all about. But I don't know. I'm looking at some games here. We're talking about the Celtics. I think we're gonna win the NBA Cup this year. Why not? Why not us? We play for. But yeah, no, it should definitely be interesting. Is this the
Yeah,
prime?
this
Yeah,
is
the
this is
first
the
game
prime
on
game, the
Prime
first
is
prime
is
game.
Knicks
Yeah.
Celtics. So that should be something to look forward to at least, and that's a pretty big game to get for Amazon Prime. Usually it's on like MSG for me over here in New
Yeah.
York. I always love hearing to their broadcast when the Celtics smack them up. But yeah, I mean it's getting me a little bit hyped up here, but it's a little bit along the way, Bruce.
It definitely is. Like you mentioned, October 24th, still over 2 months and almost 2 weeks
Yeah.
away to watching that game. I think it's kind of cool that the Celtics and Knicks, they usually do play early on in the season. I remember back a
Hmm.
couple years ago, I think it was
Season
2 years
opener.
back to back, they were the season opener. So I remember watching those with my college roommates. I'm sure you watched them, obviously, with yours as well at our respective shoe schools. But the Celtics and Knicks getting this is going to be fun. I think it's going to be interesting. I do expect the Celtics, if we're seeing them on Prime already once, and we're going to see them on it versus the Sixers, maybe they are the default Prime team, right? There are maybe the big enough market, but good enough because they have Jayson Tatum unfortunately out for the entire season, or for maybe partial of the season, that they're not getting those ESPN or TNT kind of classic duels. So maybe they are thrown to that third Amazon Prime site. So that's something to keep an eye on. Hopefully that doesn't kind of skew some of the Celtics viewings away because they have to watch it on
Yeah.
Amazon Prime. I know that's a big complaint with Amazon
Yeah.
Prime coming
But
into this whole.
the one thing that I'm thinking about is that takes away some games from NBC Boston, I would assume. So that's
Yep.
less Drew and Scal, and then even
I'm pretty
for
sure.
things.
I'm pretty sure Scal signed somewhere though for the season. At
Really?
one, I'm 90. Let me look that up. Why? Because just you mentioned that. It's either with. Let me check. Brian Scalabrine.
So maybe he has like a cross deal
I
then.
was
So
gonna
we'll get
say he
some
might
of
have a
him.
cross deal. Um, where is it?
Because
I
it's us.
saw
It's a lot.
this.
A lot of these teams got some great broadcasts for their like respective channels. I
Uh
mean, the
huh.
Knicks do great as well. I mean, everyone knows about the Hornets announcer as well. So that's the one thing too. It gets taken away from a lot of those things, and who knows what's next? They might add on Apple TV too, like they're doing with baseball, and then which
Yeah,
is
here
just
it is. I
yeah.
found it. Let me pull this up. Brian Scalabrine has joined NBA on NBC and Peacock alongside
Yep.
Austin Rivers, Derek Fisher, Robbie Hummel, Brad Daugherty,
Sure.
and Jamal Crawford, Reggie Miller, Grant Hill, Michael Grady, Mike Tirico, Noah Igo, and Terry Gannon.
Yep. Well, I mean, I guess because Scout was already with NBC Boston, right? So
Yeah,
I guess it
so
really isn't too much of a difference for him.
hmm
Wow. Okay. Well, I wish he was on all the games, anyways.
hmm
Oh man.
I wish he was too, but that's looking at Scal. We'll have to see what that means for his representation, like you said, with Prime. Maybe they probably won't get those games, and the Prime cast will be taking them. But that will again let him do his NBC stuff. And then Drew Carter also does like work for ESPN, so then he'll be able to have more of a flexible schedule to it. I'm sure it benefits everything for all of them. But Patrick, let's dive into the last topic. We talked about the NBA games that the Celtics got. We talked about the inevitable, which was our guy Wick Gruzbeck having to sell and give up his part of the ownership to Bill Chisholm, with the sale going through. And now we will look at the Boston Celtics depth chart as we dive in and explore what we could expect with some of these players and what kind of lineups we could see, who's really going to stick out. I think we can kind of both come to the why is this have Kristaps Porziņģis on it on ESPN? ESPN, how do you have Kristaps Porziņģis on the depth? I'm showing this just because I'm showing this. Look, look, they have Luke Cornett too, and Al Horford.
I feel like I saw it the other day and it wasn't like this.
2025, 2026 NBA depth chart.
Oh,
All
they're
right,
going nuts.
not we're not using them. Think real GM's gonna cook us up?
I hope so.
Come on. Oh God, I'm going too many years down. Here we are. I guess this is their depth chart. Uh,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Just about. I believe so.
are we missing anyone?
I don't think so.
One,
I
two,
don't think
three,
there's
four,
17.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, no. Yeah, they got all of them. I don't
Yeah,
know
it just
why
looks weird.
Hayden Gray is listed, even though he's a. Did he get a two-way?
Uh,
I don't think
I
so. Don't
no,
think
no.
so. I thought they were saving that for Amari, unless he got the two-way. But I'm pretty sure he's on an Exhibit 10.
Yeah, he should be.
So if they
I
only have
think
one
threw him
Exhibit
on the
10, I
roster.
don't know why they would have multiple Exhibit 10. Yeah, latest update from Noah was that he signed to that. So no, he is
All right.
just on the 2 or the 10 Exhibit 10. But looking at this depth chart, I can bet you that we can assume this is the projected starting lineup. Now, obviously, with Jayson Tatum being out, it's going to look a little bit different. Who would you say kind of gets into that starting lineup without Jayson Tatum? Do you think it's going to be Namish Queta? Namish Queta? Do you think they're going to go Chris Boucher at that power forward? Do you think it could be a Sam Hauser getting into that small forward and moving Jaylen Brown over to that power forward? Or do you even think Peyton Pritchard could rival and get into that starting lineup, pushing Anthony Simons down to the bench?
Yeah, I think personally, I would not rather Jaylen Brown play the four.
Okay.
So I honestly just like the idea of Boucher kind of playing the four spot and Nemi at the five. Like we've kind of talked about off camera about Nemi playing well overseas right now
Yeah.
with Portugal. So he's showing some good signs, and he's the veteran of this center group. I think at first, about a month ago, when everything was kind of going down, I thought personally Luka Garza would have been the guy, but I think I'm just leaning more towards Nemi now, and with Boucher as well. They kind of play a little bit differently, and I think they could both work together nicely. So I think in that aspect, I think that with those three guards, with Boucher and Keita, I definitely do like that. But I think just the one thing holding me back is having Hauser or Jaylen Brown at the four. That doesn't really make me feel too comfortable because they're definitely just gonna get bodied by whoever else is playing the four for another team, especially in the East. There's just a lot of lengthy four guys, and that's the reality of it. And I think Boucher just fits that spot better.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with you on that, Patrick. Before, I will say I was indifferent before they had made the Chris Boucher signing when they had Georges Niang. I was a little bit more leaning towards playing Jaylen Brown at the four just because I like Georges Niang, but we felt both comfortable that he was a good rotational piece, seventh, eighth,
Mhm.
ninth man, but maybe not confidently as a starter. Chris Boucher, I feel, even though he is a better bench piece, he has all the best bench stats for the Raptors. I do believe he is a little bit better of a plug and play piece than a guy in Georges Niang and can be a little bit more of better value for what the Celtics can use. Now, obviously, they play a little bit similar roles, but I do think that Chris Boucher's ability to be a better rebounder, someone that can kind of be a little bit of a better post scorer, that could be a little bit more essential for the Boston Celtics here. And playing him alongside a guy in Namish Queta who had some comfortability around a power forward in Al Horford, I think could kind of bridge that for the Boston Celtics as realistically all signs are pointing that Al Horford is either going to retire or go to Golden State. It doesn't seem like he's going to be coming back to Boston. Obviously, Brad Stevens made those comments earlier in the offseason. So adding Chris Boucher, playing him in that power forward position alongside Nimi, who you mentioned has been dominating for Portugal over in Eurobasket and is wanting to get better. I know Bobby Manning, who we looked at the schedule, had an article when he flew to Portugal and interviewed Nimi and saw him at training camp, where Nimi said he wanted to focus more on his free throws and getting better at that. And that's something he's working on for his game. And hopefully we get to see that translation kind of come into play as well. Nimi getting more comfortable, kind of coming to the game a little bit faster and picking up to that speed of how the game is able to play. And then I think we're going to see him translate to be a little bit of a better center as well for the Celtics. I agree with you. Having Sam Hauser or Jaylen Brown playing that four is not the greatest. I think this lineup with Simons, Derrick White, Jaylen Brown, Chris Boucher, and Nimi would be the ideal five for me.
Yeah, and that's definitely a capable five to bring on the court too. You still have
Yes.
some really good players, definitely 1 through 3. Boucher is actually going to get the minutes that he's finally deserved throughout his career. It feels like the Raptors were just underutilizing him.
Hmm.
I mean, there was a reason why he was leading in all those bench stats, but again, I mean, his 3 point is definitely getting better. He's capable of shooting them. He's comfortable shooting them, and then in this Celtics lineup, I think he'll definitely be shooting a lot more, as we all
Hmm.
know that. But I honestly like I think the Celtics have a pretty solid lineup when you give them 9 guys, right? You look at the starting five that we gave them, and then you have Pritchard, Shireman, Hauser, and then probably Luca Garza coming off. And then I'm kind of feeling Jordan Walsh being that 10th guy, but maybe we got to see what Hugo does as well. Maybe he takes that spot. But you know what? This team, if you're staring at it kind of with the roster that we said, and then the five coming off the bench, it makes me feel a little bit more comfortable because I kind of believe in a lot of these guys as well. I like maybe just the size is a little bit different, but when the center position, they all kind of do different things like we talked about. But they're definitely capable of playing some small ball as well, which could definitely be an interesting lineup. And I for some reason today this made me realize that like looking at this, I have a little bit more confidence in this team just because they're still a little bit more polished. A lot of these guys from the championship team still, and I think they got some great players, and I think they'll be able to pull some good wins together.
Yeah, and I love how you say that because I think Derrick White, Jaylen Brown, those polished guys. Peyton Pritchard, we're going to see continue to get better on the offensive side of the ball. I think a lot of people see Peyton Pritchard as sixth man of the year, and they think that's his cap, right? They think that's where he can get. I remember before the season, not to give any discredit over here, but our guy Bryson from Thunder Digest was messaging. Celtics fans are telling me that Peyton Pritchard could win sixth man of the year. I think that's crazy. And then when Peyton Pritchard won sixth man of the year, I said, what? Like, because it's true. Like, people have these expectations for these guys and they think that they can't fully get better. And truly, I think that they can. And a guy like Peyton Pritchard, after in the ball don't stop. I don't know if you saw in Vegas over the past weekend, he had like another 60-point
Yep.
performance against stuff like that, and a pickup performance, which we've seen over the past couple of years. Peyton Pritchard is that baller. He's going to be electric on the offensive side of the floor, and specifically when Jayson Tatum's out and you need someone who can hit more three-pointers and take more of those shots, he's not going to shy away from those. I see him maybe getting to 20 points averaged this season, 6 assists for the Boston Celtics, playing an impactful role, trying to represent and be a starter in the NBA. Obviously, you have Anthony Simons, who's been hearing his name in these trades discussions, has been hearing, the potential of him getting flipped. He's going to want to make a statement. He's on an expiring contract. He's going to want to play offensively and great. And with Tatum's three-point shot being kind of missing as well from this offense, that can kind of correlate and be that missing variable there for the Celtics. I think you mentioned Sam Hauser as well. I think he's going to be another key point for this rotation here, playing that wing role. We talked about him potentially as a trade candidate because the Celtics were trying to shed salary. Maybe they didn't get the offers they wanted, but I think Sam Hauser on a $10 million deal is an absolute steal for a type of player like him. And I think if he continues to grow, get better on the offensive side, still develop that three-point shot, maybe still be effective as a defender, he can be pretty solid. Luka Garza, I expect to play that backup center if Boucher kind of does play that power forward role. We might see Boucher in some small ball five. Then I think it really comes down to the competing guys, right? Shireman had his time in Summer League, didn't look the greatest offensively, but was doing everything else right. Jordan Walsh looked really polished coming out of Summer League, really with that hunger. We have obviously Xavier Tillman, who little shaky last year. We'll see where he can fit. Ugo Gonzalez from the Summer League, the first round pick. Some expectations might be low on him, but he can make a significant impact. And then Josh Minot, someone who I feel like no one's been talking about. He could just kind of blossom out of nowhere. So there's all these guys that are just kind of here, kind of waiting to make their explosion. And I think that's good for the Celtics because in a game where you're playing maybe Cleveland Cavaliers and you're down 10 points, throw these guys out there. Let them have fun. Let them figure out what they can be. And if then you can find these hidden gems for this roster, really find those guys like we've mentioned, those new Peyton Pritchards, those new Sam Hausers, those new Luke Cornets that you can lock up long term and have to put alongside your roster. So when it does get expensive down the line, you have these key filler replacement guys to kind of take those next steps. And we're going to have to see that kind of come through with them losing Luke, losing Al, losing Kristaps, losing Jrue, and etc.
Yeah, I mean, like you keep saying, it's definitely a manageable lineup. And there's a reason why, Bruce. I told you I got a lot of nicknames with my friends for a lot of these guys, and there's a reason why we call Peyton Pritchard Wilt Chamberlain because that's the numbers that he puts up in the summer. And hopefully he can put up some of those numbers in the regular season. We're gonna see a minutes boost from all these guys, but I don't think I touched on Hugo Gonzalez enough because I thought he had a pretty impressive summer league. I was
Yes.
actually enjoying watching him play, and he looks like he could play a guard spot. He's capable of, passing the ball. I thought he was a great passer, has a quick first step, and just looks very smart and has like this veteran mindset and gameplay to his game. And I think that's exciting. And that's why it puts Jordan Walsh into this weird spot because this is his third year now with the Celtics. I mean, he's still young, but you got a guy coming in that's looking to take your spot, and he played just as well as you. Maybe not shooting wise, but I mean, it's your third year in summer league as well. I mean, just to make that point. But I mean, he's been surrounded by veterans his whole career over there at Madrid, and there's a lot of pieces here that are interesting because they're going to get a lot more minutes. I think that we're not going to really have a minimized lineup at all. I think everyone's going to have a lot of opportunity, and I think that's what's going to make this season fun. And you're going to learn a lot about these guys because that next off season is really going to be the game changer for this team.
100%. And I think we're going to see a lot of competition this year, which is going to be a lot of fun. You're going to see the Anthony Simons, Peyton Pritchard competition a little bit. Obviously, they're going to be great teammates, but, trying to be like that alpha other guard in this rotation. I think guys, like you mentioned, Jordan Walsh, who now has his third year with the Boston Celtics, Baylor Shireman with his sophomore year, Ugo with his rookie year, they're all going to try to be fighting for those spots because Ugo's probably going to be a little bit more off ball, kind of playing a little bit more of a Jordan Walsh role. We saw Shireman obviously through the Celtics season last year in his time be a little bit of a more offense focused piece. But with him having those struggles, we'll see how that really translates to him on the court with the Celtics. Will he be another offensive scorer like a Simons, like a Pritchard, like a Derrick White, someone who can be that? Or will he be more an off ball type guy helping out and doing other things as well with being a kind of shooting and scorer, which can maybe rise him in that rotation? And then we obviously have guys like Josh Minot and Xavier Tillman, who once again fighting for their lives. Luka Garza trying to make an imprint, trying to just like stick to a team, kind of make a lasting uh, ditch effort to cling to a squad and be impactful, truly. And I think we're going to see that kind of come through this year with them once again, similar with guys like O'Shea Brissett and Lamar Stevens from a couple seasons ago, trying to make that impact. And even though they only played limited time this year, obviously it's a little bit different with the injuries. They'll have more of an experience. We could see one of those guys maybe rise to a role in 10 to 15 minutes and be a difference maker.
Yeah, and who knows? We haven't brought it up, but Charles Bassey. Who knows? Maybe he
Yes.
comes out of the blue. I don't think it's a stream unless we bring up Charles Bassey. I love this guy, but who knows? Maybe he could show up out of nowhere. The regular season's going to start. We're going to be watching Prime, and all of a sudden, Charles Bassey's out there taking layups, and then he's going to be starting the game. So who knows? Maybe we get some Charles Bassey action out of nowhere. I would love that.
Oh, if we could send, if I could edit this, I would write in this column right here under Luca Garza, mystery man, and then put his averages because Charles Bassey, I'd love to see him come through once again, like you mentioned, Patrick. Who knows? We might see as training camp opens up and gets closer, we may see a guy like Charles Bassey still go there. I know we talked about Hayden Gray, who was listed there. They have Aaron Scott, and I do believe they have Jalen Bridges as those other Exhibit 10 contracts. So the Celtics at this point have 14 standards. They have two guys that are on two ways in RJ Lewis and Max Shulga. They have those three coming in on those training camp deals. And then they have their guy, Amari Williams, the second round pick, who obviously is expected to get that two-way spot to fill in that Miles Norris wave that we saw a couple of days ago. We still have no confirmation that it's obviously going to be Amari Williams, but all signs are pointing to that. So that would leave us at 20 out of 21 training camp invites. So that still leaves the option, right, for Charles Bassey, who's still interested in the Celtics, to still make himself present at this training camp, still trying to make an impact, fight for that 15th roster spot. Who knows? We saw last year when Lonnie Walker was that guy that came in for the preseason. There were some discussions with the Celtics in trying to trade Jaden Springer's contract to sign Lonnie Walker. Maybe if Charles Bassey impresses, that's another conversation that the Celtics have with one of these other contracts, and Anthony Simons, a Xavier Tillman, a Namish Keita to bring in a Charles Bassey. That's all could still be possibly up in the air, and that's all we have to kind of really think forward to for the Celtics with the 2 months of still waiting for that basketball that we alluded to in the beginning of the show.
Yeah, I mean, I wish they would just tell us. Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of speculation lately, and there's only so much that we can say because nothing is confirmed
Yep.
whatsoever. And I wish something could just be confirmed. If anyone could just watch us and then just comment and be like, "Yeah, you just gotta wait a little bit," I'll be like, "All right, fine." Like at least I know it's coming. But yeah, Charles Bassey, I hope he ends up getting that last training camp spot because I think he truly deserves it. I mean, he had a great summer league, obviously getting double doubles pretty much every night, and just he's an older guy. I mean, he's been in the league for a long time. He can't even get a two-way anymore. He's been in the league for that long, but he's only 24 years old, about the same age as Baylor Shireman, pretty much. So, but you got that 5, 6 years of NBA experience, and the Celtics are in need of a big man. So why not give him another shot because he got one out of the blue and just do it again, please. Like,
That's what
I'm
I'm
begging
saying.
you at this point.
I'd agree. I'd agree. Obviously, the injuries have been a little bit of a weary case for Charles Bassey, but for a Celtics team that's willing to experiment, try to figure out what's really happening, and once again, is Chris Boucher going to be the key starting power forward, starting center for the future at 32 years old? No. Could he have a good season and then bounce back and get a contract somewhere else? 100%. There's no security in keeping him. Luka Garza, I'm pretty sure, got a 2-year deal when he signed
Yep.
with the Boston Celtics, but obvious, similar to like an Xavier Tillman when he's re-signed, but that option presently still brings out there. There's no concrete center position filled for this year or next year. There's no center that we are building around, believing in, trusting in 100%. So I personally think if you have the option to bring Bassey, you go out and do it. He clearly wants to come back to you. He impressed in Summer League for you. Do I think he's going to be this generational talent that's going to transform and be a top 10 center in the league? No. But could it be a serviceable big that could be a good representation and be someone you could have as a good depth piece down the line? 100%. And especially if you have multiple centers in that logjam, then maybe he's not playing as much, he's not getting injured as easily. That makes him even more effective. So I'm on full board. Let's get Bassey back, and let's not let him get signed with somewhere else. Because if he goes to another team at training camp, signs a deal, and then impresses, that's when you're like, why didn't we do anything?
And that would sound just about right too. That would make a lot of sense. But who knows? Maybe the Celtics
Nah,
have.
Patrick, that's the Suns, not the Celtics. Wrong team.
But who knows? Maybe the Celtics have something in the back of their head. I mean, first of all, you said, do you think he's going to be a top 10 center? You don't think so, but he could. He could be. But maybe Bam Adebayo just wants to be a Celtic, and that's what they're looking for. So maybe that's just what's going to happen. Maybe that's the real reason behind the extra roster spot. He's boys with Tatum.
that is true. That
Who
is true.
knows? I mean, who knows, right?
I mean, I'm all down, all
A
down.
guy
Next
could be
season,
delusional, can't he?
yes, no, you can, and if let's be real, Miami's having a little bit of a bad season this year, like we predicted. There might be an option for it to happen. Who knows? Do you like Anthony Simons, guys? Like, we got this guy over. Like, anyways, Patrick, it was a blast diving in and talking on this stream with you, looking at some Celtics stuff. Like we mentioned here, the sale for the Celtics has officially gone through. You can check out our video that we posted before the stream as we talked about some details roughly around it, and then it got confirmed that it was sold. So there is a little bit of some background and some knowledge for some more information regarding the Boston Celtics. We also then talked about the schedule getting released, some NBA Cup games, the Celtics being the first team to play on Prime, with a bunch of other dates being released tomorrow. The full schedule will get released, and we'll probably have something diving in, maybe looking at some games. And even if you are a Celtics fan, you can check that out to maybe do a little bit of a breakdown, how you think the team's going to look in certain months, kind of figure that out, and kind of estimate what this team could have as a record at the end of the season. And then lastly, we dove in, looked at the depth chart, discussed some players, looked at who's really going to stand out, and who might be competing for some spots here for the Celtics. But ultimately, it was a great time hanging out with you guys. So thank you guys so much for being here. And we'll catch you guys next week, next Wednesday, as we go live at 6 p.m. Eastern to discuss whatever other news comes through on this dry Sahara desert that the Celtics are trying to ride the magic carpet and trying to pick and pluck some random wishes. But without further ado, we'll be signing off. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.